what's going on, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. I'm excited to be with you today. Today, I interview a good friend, Brent Chase, who just recently moved from where I am up to Washington area. He's working in the transportation industry, and we talk all about that. So how he got into this industry, some tips and tools and tactics of how others that might be interested in going to transportation engineering, what they might do, and some interesting facts about that. So anyway, it was a fun interview to do with Brent. I really do appreciate him jumping on. I think you're going to learn some things listening to this interview, and it was just really fun to catch up with him. So anyway, I hope you're excited as I am. Brent is coming right up, and we'll talk all about transportation engineering and the fun tips, tools, and resources related to that. It's all coming right up. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I've got Brent with us today. How's it going, Brent?
Good, Isaac.
Sweet. So just a quick story. Brent and I know each other, kind of been living in the same area for a bit. Brent's now moved away to Kennewick, right? Up in the tri-states kind of area.
Yeah, Eastern Washington. You got it.
Nice. My own career has taken me there a few times, so I'm very familiar with the area, doing some transmission work up in that area. So nice area.
Nice, yeah.
Well, I wanted to dive into this. I'll give a brief introduction about you, but it's always nice to hear from yourself, a little bit about yourself, maybe even how you got into engineering and what you do today. So why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, so I work for a firm called David Evans and Associates, or DEA. They're based out of Portland, primarily through the Pacific Northwest. I'm out of their Spokane office, actually. But yeah, a roadway transportation engineer focused on the design of road and highways. And then as far as how I got into civil engineering, growing up, I always liked construction. You know, a lot of people kids had construction vehicles, you play in the sandbox, whatever. And then you like watching the construction, and that kind of developed from there. And it was actually it was like a youth meeting or something like that, and somebody came to a career night to present on civil engineering. I never heard of civil engineering before, and they're talking about it and all the cool things they were doing and things like that. I ended up actually talking with the guy afterwards for another hour, saying, hey, I was thinking about going into construction. And then he told me about civil engineering and how, what great opportunities would come from that, and how it gives you a good, platform for your career. And he asked if I was good with math, and I said, sure, because as we know, civil engineers do a lot of math. And so that was kind of the first inkling that I got into civil engineering. And I was actually a construction management major in college to start off, and decided that wasn't quite a good fit, quite the direction I wanted to go, and looked back into civil engineering and did that. And one thing led to another, and now I'm a transportation engineer. So that's kind of the nutshell of it all.
Wow, that's awesome. Is this guy still, was he a mentor at all growing up, doing this stuff? Or
a little bit, yeah, kind of a family friend, actually it was kind of a family of engineers. They were husband, wife, civil engineer, had their own firm. They did a lot of things in Southern California where I grew up. So kind of really all over, I think they've done some projects all over the world. So yeah, it was definitely helped me, through my program, as I had, questions and career questions and things like that. So definitely.
That's great.
Yeah.
When I was deciding on doing this, and I've shared this story before, but I saw two brothers graduate, and one of them graduated in civil engineering, and one of them graduated in business. And at the time, the economy sucked, and the guy with the business degree was finding jobs that was like still a high school wage. It was something you could make in high school, and he decided to go on his own, do his own thing in real estate, which has been probably the better route for him. But at the time, I saw my other brother in civil engineering, and he got a good job and was able to get a home and those kind of things, and that kind of set me up on a path of which direction I kind of wanted to head. So I think it's funny how when we grow up, we see some influences in our life, and those people kind of become our benchmark of what kind of where we're headed. So that's really
neat. I and you don't think you really realize it at the time, and you kind of look back and you kind of connect the dots and look where you come from, and it's pretty interesting sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So take us through a typical day today of your kind of engineering, your transportation engineer. Get us some details. What software are you using maybe that you would recommend to somebody that wanted to get into this field, or something that would help an engineer that maybe is looking at transportation? But tell us what you do now and some of the tools and resources you use. I think that would be fun to know.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'm a project engineer essentially. So working on, different projects, doing the design, getting in the modeling and the different CAD platforms. A lot of DOTs or Department of Transportations are using the Bentley software. So that's your inroads, that's your open roads. That's kind of the latest and greatest that's coming out. A lot of your local cities and counties and other municipalities tend to use more the Autodesk or AutoCAD Civil 3D stuff, which is kind of, I don't know how it was for you, Isaac. That's what I ended up learning in college. That's what they taught. But then, got all the on-the-job training doing the Bentley stuff.
Yeah, I agree. When I was in college, it was AutoCAD is what you learned in
Right.
college. I didn't learn any other CAD software. I mean, there's a little bit of my mind's going blank. But yeah, there's a little other CAD work, but AutoCAD was definitely the main one.
Yeah. So now I far enough in the career, I can kind of switch between the two a little bit. Definitely more of a Bentley user, depending on, who the client is, can kind of dictate kind of the software you use. But those are definitely the two main ones that are out there. But then as far as working on the projects, you just, what the client needs and looking at the different standards. You have to, if you're in a different state, there's little bit different standards, way of doing things. For example, I'm doing some, what they call work share, or different, some people call it long hallway. Anyways, you're working on, not necessarily, even though I'm in Eastern Washington, I'm actually working on a lot of projects in Oregon for the DOT out there. And, just working to help the project, meet the design requirements, the standards, and work with the project manager, working with the junior staff, to give them tasks and assignments to ultimately, come out with like a model and plan sets, although those are slowly being phased out depending on who the client is, and then just trying to keep the project on time and under budget, just like anything else.
So do you feel like if someone was wanting to learn this position, this job, is a lot of it on the job training? Or is there a leg up that they could have in maybe tipping their toe into some of these softwares or something so that maybe they could put it on a resume, give them a leg up?
Yeah, definitely. For example, one of my internships I had was with a different engineering firm, and all I did was just CAD edit work, which is very, simple, straightforward CAD, but I really got to know MicroStation that way, and that's how I really got into it. It was basically editing these drawings to be as built as the project was going on. They had to be slightly modified to match what was actually built in the field. And so that was just like a lot of red line CAD where you see this plan sheet and you follow the red line marks and change it in the CAD. And that was really how I got that good, fundamental understanding of the CAD. So, you can get that through an internship. You could start learning on your own. And there's, especially nowadays online, there's endless training and tutorials you can do, YouTube videos to really learn the software.
Yeah, I'm looking back at my own career. I use a software that's very specific to the field I'm in, and it's called PLS CAD. Mm-hmm. And it's specifically designed to do transmission work or distribution work. But you can model all the structures. And same thing is that the way to get a leg up, or at least put it on a resume, is start looking at YouTube, looking at tutorials that are on there. A lot of places give you free software if you're a student, and that might be worth looking into if you're looking at just dipping your toe into learning some of this stuff. But I think if you can, and even put that on a resume that you're familiar with it, you've already kind of got a leg up on the next person that has no experience whatsoever. So
yeah, no, definitely, for sure.
What about a lesson learned? Has there ever been a lesson learned or a tough mistake that you've had to go through? Maybe you could share with us.
Lesson learned. I guess I would say, I mean, there's lots of lessons I've learned through life thus far, but really I think it comes down to, life isn't fair, but it's all about your attitude and perspective towards it. Some people are just dealt different cards, but I think it just comes down to your attitude. And I think really your perspective, just the way you look at something can really change. For example, I went to school, I graduated in civil engineering. It seemed like a really good, degree. I could land a job, right away. However, I quickly graduated so we could move to Logan, Utah, to go to Utah State so my wife could start her school program. And so there wasn't much preparation I could do as far as jobs go. And it was just a small town, so there weren't a ton of like specific civil engineering jobs. So I actually ended up being a bus driver for the city of Logan. So it's kind of interesting. So the joke was, I went to school for 4 years to be a bus driver. So, but I just see it as like, a step along the way, and kind of reevaluated things. I was able to get some internships, get some more experience. And then by the time she was graduated, we were able to make it work. I was able to get a job in Salt Lake, and, things eventually worked out. But it's just interesting how things work out that way. And you just kind of see, what you can learn from it and look about that experience. It was a humbling experience, not be able to get a job right away. But, I think it worked out the way it did, or wouldn't be where I'm at. So,
yeah, and maybe you even noticed some things as a bus driver that apply to transportation and helped in some way there too. So,
right, exactly. Yeah, no,
pretty
for
cool.
sure. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Is how I got to know the city was I would think about it by bus routes. That's how I got to know. Yeah, you take this one here and that one there, but yeah, definitely, in the field experience, as they call it, that was one way to get it, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, any potential bus drivers out there?
Yeah, I'm the designated party bus driver, I guess now.
Let's fast forward then to today. What's like a favorite project you've recently worked on, or one that's memorable to yourself?
Yeah. Something that's been really cool going about to experience and kind of getting that leg up. Junior engineers often have opportunity to do like inspection work where you're out in the field, you're actually on the project full time, you're reviewing the plans, you're getting to know the specifications, the standard drawings. In my situation, I was actually certified to test the materials, test the concrete, test all the aggregate and everything by densities, and, cone tests and air tests and all that. So really that was like my crash course on engineering and getting to know kind of the, out in the field, kind of when does an inch really matter and that kind of stuff. So I was, on this project for one summer in just this one intersection. I got to know that intersection really well. It was a widening intersection, a new signal replacement, had some drainage, so had a little bit of everything on it. And then more recently, I'm working in Oregon called Aurora Donald interchange. It's a heavy truck traffic interchange off of I-5. They changed to be a DDI, or a diverging diamond interchange, to try to make it more efficient. And so that's been the latest one I've been doing.
Has that been the most memorable one, or is there any that have been memorable?
As of late, memorable one is kind of interesting. It's actually a parking lot, which is transportation engineer. You don't do a ton of those, or more developers or site development type stuff. But no, it was a Little Cottonwood Canyon in Salt Lake. There was this old grip mill site that they wanted to demolish. There's building on there, but it was a way that I basically did everything from beginning to end, because it was a smaller project. So I could do all the modeling, I could do a lot of the CAD, I could do a lot of the plan sheets, I could do all the standards. So it was like a really big test for me to see, okay, how much I understand, the full process of, a project from beginning, meeting with the client and everything from that. And, there were some other things associated with the parking lot, some widening on the main road going through there. But that was just, like, okay, I can do this kind of moment, like, getting some confidence and understanding. So that's memorable for that way. And it was the first set that, as an engineer, I had stamped and that kind of thing. So that's kind of why it's also memorable. And so, I haven't checked it out yet. It was put on the shelf for a little while, but I think they got the funding and they just completed construction this summer. So I'm anxious to go check it out. So it's the best parking lot around, I'll tell you.
You got to go check it out.
That's right.
I think one of the beauties of being a civil engineer is that it depends on which field you're in, obviously, but a lot of times you get to see the actual product that you've built, and it's something that's there and it will last for a very, very, very long time.
Right.
And that's always fun to see. So yeah, you definitely got to check that out.
Yeah.
That's crazy. My own work doing with transmission lines and stuff, it's kind of this weird niche, but seeing the final product built, there's something very satisfying to move from something on a computer to something in the real world, and seeing it all come together well. And the issues, they start coming in as soon as something is built, and that's just part of the fun. So, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you might have a few headaches during the project, but you kind of forget about them once you see the final product, and it's worth it and rewarding for sure.
Good deal. Well, I want to ask some kind of quick questions. You can answer these as long as or as short as you want, but any major obstacles you feel like you faced when becoming a civil engineer that could be related to boss, exams, anything like that?
Those math courses in college, man, those are brutal. The advanced calculus. I think there's one summer, because I was in a hurry to graduate, and so I ended up taking like 2 math courses, and the shortened like summer term, and it was killer. It was just math, hours of math every day. It was brutal, but little by little I got through it. So
you knocked it out.
Yeah.
I mean, engineering is no stroll in the park. You end up learning what the teacher wants you to do, and you do your best at it. So
yeah.
A lot of people struggle with passing the PE exam. I'm just curious if you had any advice for people taking either the FE or the PE, just on your own. Any advice for those taking those exams?
I don't know. You just got to find out what works best for you, but it's just those practice problems. Just keep practicing them, going through them, making sure you know your resources and your references and where to easily track things down. I think for the FE, I ended up buying that reference book ahead of time so I could, become familiar with it. And I think.
And you're referring to PPI's book, the Civil Engineering Reference Manual, I'm assuming.
No, well, for the PE, yeah, but I think for the FE, isn't there like an equations book you get when you take the test? You can get like.
Yes, the NCES Reference Manual.
Yeah, that guy. It's been a little while.
The other big book.
Yeah. It wasn't as big, but anyways, just becoming familiar with that. I think, there were a lot of questions that I'm like, I don't remember learning this, but in that book, I could easily look at the formula and give a best guess and move on to the next one. Don't spend too much time on it, but even educated guess is better than just randomly, selecting, but just practice. Yeah.
Very good. Good advice. Practice, practice, practice. Just got to do it.
That's right.
Another fun question is, what advice would you give to someone that wants to pursue a career similar to yours?
Just get that experience, I think, is, you'll learn in the engineering world that they say it's a small engineering world. And I found that even moving from different states, you used to make connections all the time. So I think there's 2 sides. Is one, just, they say network, but just, establish relationships, get to know people, what they do, talk to different people, see what they work on and what they do. And then also don't burn bridges as you go through things, especially if you're turning down job offers or, if you don't like a certain employee or whatever, those things can travel around with you no matter where you go. So I think it's just relationships are important. And so start establishing those now. And then, just stick with it and don't give up, and just get as much experience as you can. However that may be, even if it's an internship that may not be ideal, the best one out there. I think just some experience is better than none. So.
I love your story about how you got your experience, and I think that's a real good model for probably any civil engineer. You get out in the field, if you're taking measurements or doing testing, at least you're out there, boots on the ground, kind of doing that stuff and really seeing what it's like out there.
Right.
I know a lot of people that don't get that opportunity. Maybe they move to an office role pretty quickly and they don't learn that they need to get out in the field often to check things out. And so, if you have a chance to do that early, that's going to take you a long ways in your career. So I think that's really good advice.
Right. Yeah. I think get out in the field as much as possible is the way to do it.
What's a common myth you think about civil engineering profession or your field of work that maybe you'd like to debunk?
Engineers are boring. Well, interesting enough, I guess, speaking of civil engineering, you have the different branches, you have your structures and, transportation and water and geotech, et cetera. It was always cool being the structural engineer growing up, because you design the bridges and all sorts of the tall buildings. And that was like the cool one to do,
Mm-hmm.
all the calendar shots and whatnot. So I think that, you can have a lot of fun with, you'll find people you connect with and you can have a lot of fun doing it and, with your coworkers and, some people may not be as interesting as others, but I think you'll find your group and just, enjoy it and have fun with it.
That's great advice. I also think a lot of people think we're introverts, and maybe that's true for a lot of people. But I had an interview with in a podcast episode in the past, and I really like this quote. It was that really an introvert just means how you recharge, and even though you're introverted, it doesn't mean you can't give a public speech or talk to other people or communicate effectively. It's really just kind of how you recharge. So that's kind of a big myth as well with civil engineers. So I like what you said, that we're boring, that we like to have fun. Well, yes, we do like to have fun. We're not boring. We're just like everyone else.
Maybe being a little nerdy, driving around with the kids saying, hey, look at that. That's what I did. And they could probably care less. But, at least your coworkers think it's cool, I guess.
I share my wife. Every power pole I look at that pole. And they don't want to look
looks at it. Like 100 other ones you showed me, right? Exactly.
Oh, that's funny. Well, let's ask you another fun question. What's a personal habit that contributes to your success, maybe as an engineer? Do you feel like?
I think just being someone who's reliable to get the job done. I think, it comes down to communication, and that can really have you stand out, and just being reliable and dependable that, so-and-so is one that can do it and will get it done, and they don't have to worry about it. The project manager, if they give you a task or an assignment, and that kind of thing. So,
yeah. And I think, just my own 2 cents, but when the company realizes you're reliable, then you become a bigger asset to the company. And I think you have more opportunities to grow, more opportunities for a raise. Once they know you're reliable and you're going to do what you're there for, I think that's also a very long way if you can show that. Don't be coming to work late, or if you don't take responsibilities for mistakes that are made and things like that. If you push stuff off, that stuff just never goes well.
Yeah. And I'd also add to that, don't be afraid to ask questions instead of just, sitting there all day, not progressing on something. So I'd much rather have you, ask a question and, get it to understanding and continue to move on to the next task. So
very good. Okay. Very nice. Well, is there any resources you would recommend to the Civil Engineering Academy audience? Anything of that nature?
I think if you're interested in transportation engineering, especially, there's many cities and different municipalities, even, DOTs have transportation improvement plans that you can usually get online and look into. And they'll have different monthly meetings a lot of times to kind of discuss all the projects. They'll have 5 or 10-year plans or more of projects that they want to fund. And so there it'll have a breakout of where the funding comes from, but you can also see what projects are coming up and, whether it's in your own community, you can see where the road's going to be wide and where they're going to put a trail in. But I think it's also a neat opportunity to see, okay, what kind of work is out there, what kind of firms are getting that work, and who maybe has those jobs that you maybe want to are interested in work for, especially if a firm, wins a big job, there might be a demand for people to help out on that job, and you can be a step ahead and, hey, I heard you just won this job, be looking for people, whatever. But I think it's just a good way to track what's going on in the industry, what projects are coming out, what the funding's like, and, really kind of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity right now. You can really dive into the details of what's being designed in the cities that you live in. And if you really want to engage with that, you can, those lead you to opportunities of people that are hiring, employment, and firms that are out there working on this stuff. So I think that's great advice. Is there any books that you'd recommend to our audience? Could be on anything.
When I was in college, my mom gave me this book. It's kind of funny. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I was like, oh, thanks, Mom. I don't think I have any friends, but it's by Dale Carnegie. But it's a really good book about just how people, especially relationships, and just, as you're working with people you don't know as well, just how to, get that common ground and really have those kind of relationships and win friends.
Awesome.
Everyone could use more friends, right?
Yeah, how you build connections, right?
Exactly.
Build friends. That's awesome. Your mom thought you couldn't make any friends, huh? Gave you the book.
That's Mom's awesome. Always looking out, Isaac.
Well, this question is just kind of a fun one. But if you had all the resources in the world, what's something you'd like to be a part of in the civil engineering world, or anything you'd like to do with that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's unique about our field is, it's worldwide. Everybody needs civil engineering in their communities, and there's some really cool humanitarian efforts you can do out there. And so I'd love to get more involved with that. I haven't done very much with it, but I know people that have, and it's something I definitely would like to do more of, and just, helping the world and communities around, and using, skills and experience that I've been able to have and gain, and share those with others, and, for the greater good.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there if you just look for them, for sure. So, it could have to do with water. It could be building buildings, could be building schools.
Right.
A lot of opportunities to
definitely.
That's great. Well, Brent, let's go ahead and conclude this. Would you have any last pieces of, guidance, or a best way for somebody to get a hold of you if they had questions about maybe going into the transportation world?
Man, I don't know. Just have a plan, I think is good. And, I think your plan can always change, but I think just having a plan and kind of some goals is always good. Know which direction you're heading. And if that doesn't work out, look at ways you can change that. And then as far as connection, I think LinkedIn, shoot me an email or something on there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay. Go search Brent Chase on there. You'll find him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me, Brent. This has been fun. I think it's fun to get a better glimpse into the transportation world, going through, the tips, tools, and advice that you can share with us. It's always enlightening for any other future engineer that's going in this, or if maybe others want to make a whole career pivot, what's out there for them. So thanks for jumping on and sharing this with us.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you, Isaac.
All right. See you later. Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you enjoyed that interview with Brent Chase. If you find him on LinkedIn, give him a shout out and a thank you. Or if you have questions, reach out to him as well, because he's a great resource. And, if you're looking for a mentor in the transportation industry, or just want to talk to somebody else, he might be a good resource for you. So go check that out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions about anything, you can also reach out to me, Isaac at Civil Engineering Academy. If you need more resources to help you with your exams, that includes the FE, the PE, or your PE depth section, go check out the courses and material we have over at civilengineeringacademy.com. Also, if you need the Civil Engineering Reference Manual from PPI, go use our affiliate link at civilengineeringacademy.com/PPI and use the code CIVAC to get 15% off any book that you order there. Save you some money. So anyway, hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Ooh, sometimes you gotta do the do. This is how I stay up. You drink a couple of those and you'll be up for a while. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. A lot of caffeine.
So